Welcome to the Winners and Losers Show. Hello, everybody. My name is Hank Thompson. I'm the host of the show. I'm going to be the host of the show until all the flies are swatted away from the pie farm. That's a great start there, buddy. That'll make more sense as we get into the episode. There's some pie talk coming up. Pie is the perfect medicine for these troubled times, as we all know. So I'm delighted to introduce you to Jessica Ellis. She's a screenwriter. She has an MFA from the American Film Institute. I think she has a background in acting. A year or so ago, she wrote and directed a feature-length film called What Lies West. So we talk about that a little bit. Find her on Twitter. She's great at Twitter. Find her on Twitter at Baddest Mama Jama or Mama Jama. I'm not sure which one it is, honestly. See the description for links. She's a really smart person and insightful and thoughtful and intelligent. I got to know her first on Twitter. She actually was a guest on Winners and Losers about 5 or 6 years ago. So there's another, if you can't get enough of me and Jessica rambling, I do the rambling. She does the insightful, hot take offering. Go ahead and look into the feed on iTunes for the older episode. Jessica has a lot of great insights. We talk about career stuff and working in this business and kind of navigating the travails of it all. That's not the only topic. We get into some politics things too. And there's a lot of good little haunted forest convo. Not a ton, but I think I've been leaning into the haunted forest metaphors a lot lately, and I'm going to stick with it. Because forests are complicated ecosystems, and just like we are doing to real forests, you can kill them. So, good. Awesome. So, yeah, I could ramble. I don't need to ramble. I do have to go kill some flies downstairs. Our apartment's above a dumpster. The building's dumpster is below in the garage, and we happen to be the closest balcony to that. So, I have been having some of that. Why did I think talking about flies would be good? So anybody new listening, thank you for clicking play. You've made an excellent decision. There are so many other things you could have clicked play on today and probably will. And most of them are going to raise your anxiety and cause you to feel existential dread that will haunt you well into your nightmares tonight. So I hope this isn't one of those. Thanks for joining us. Oh, before I do, I'm going to be playing around with Twitch. Being on the vanguard of all movements, I'm a super cool young hip man. So please look in the description for the link. I'm going to be doing starting out. I'm just going to play Rocket League, which is a video game, and talk while playing, mostly just to have something to look at. I'm kind of good at it. Actually, I make tons of mistakes. I'm terrible. I'm good enough to know how I messed up. That's the level of proficiency I'm at. But I'm also be featuring some shrimp. Don't know what I mean? There's only one way to find out. But yeah, there's a lot of good politics and good talk occurring on Twitch nowadays. I hadn't really. I always found Twitch to be kind of befuddling, and I just lumped it into that thing that the younger kids are up to, like snap bracelets and who's that hot guy? Mario, the guy from Saved by the Bell. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm playing with it. I got graphics up. That's usually the first step of all my dumb projects. And anyway, I don't know. I might do some drawing on there while talking. I have to create a lot of graphics, and I've always thought it'd be kind of interesting to live stream that. And I was thinking about doing it on YouTube. This is an idea I've had for a few years, but now that I've got a Twitch channel, and I'm sort of starting to tap into the liberal and lefty progressive sphere of Twitch, I'm kind of getting a sense for some fun stuff that we might be able to do with it. It's also motivating me to try to get my fat ass in gear and get onto better eating habits, not just because that's healthier for my body and my mental health, but also because I probably should get on camera at some point. At this point, I am in the no camera zone based on my constantly fluctuating self-worth and body image issues. So, good. Okay, enough rambling. Please enjoy this conversation with Jessica Ellis.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Less is still an addition. You can't subtract talking. Okay. Great start. Welcome to Jessica. We're starting the recording now, Jessica, that's so you know.
Yeah.
Welcome to Winners and Losers. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me back. It was so incredibly long ago that I was on.
Wasn't it? I know. 5 years or something?
Something like that. Yeah. I think it was 2016, early 2016.
I started this podcast in 2010. And it's gone through various evolutions. And that was a time where I was actually trying to build out, work on it and have guests come over and do stuff. And you were grateful and reckless enough to come by and sit down and talk to me. So it was fun.
You were my first podcast.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
My first podcast. So this is
All right.
this is like, meeting your high school sweetheart all over again.
Yeah. Oh God, look at him now. Jesus, he's all gray and chubby and bald.
What the hell has happened to that guy?
Do you stay in touch with high school people? Either socially or like online versions.
I'm Facebook friends with a lot of them, but not really. No, I've kind of drifted fully out of the high school orb. It was in my 20-year anniversary, like a reunion was supposed to be this year.
Okay,
but it got canceled, and I'm not sad.
Yeah,
That's fine.
So you graduated in then that would be 20 or 2000. Yeah, 20 years ago. That would make sense. I'm 97, so I a little got you beat there. I'll be dead sooner. But
not necessarily. That was my track record. There's no guarantees.
That's true. I don't have that. I never really stayed in touch with high school folks. I mean, I knew some people through college, but it sort of just peters out. And I never even heard about any of the reunions. I never even had the opportunity to say I didn't want to go. I probably wouldn't have wanted to go, but they either they didn't have it or they didn't invite me, and both are acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Gosh, that's a good question. What if there is a group out there that it's really the best revenge if you don't even know about people that would intentionally exclude you from your reunion.
Right.
And like your life is so far from them, you don't care. Yeah.
Like, would I like them to say, Hank, you weren't cool back then and nobody knew who you were. Your brother was popular. We all loved him, but
you had one of those situations.
Yeah, my name was "Where's your brother?" That's people would walk up to me and just go, "Where's your brother?" And he's not here. I can tell you that much. That's you and I have the same information right now. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I find people though like who maintain. I think it makes sense to sort of maintain a fondness for your high school years, particularly if you enjoyed high school, which I didn't particularly. But Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I had good years and bad years.
Yeah.
Like I switched school to my junior year, and it's like I had a good freshman year and a good junior year, and 2 crappy years.
Oh.
Otherwise,
so you switched, and then your first switch was a good year, your junior year.
Well, people like me for very short periods of time. Like I could make it 1 year with a group of friends in high school, but 2 years, no, they hated me after that. So they hated me so much at the end of my sophomore year. Rumors followed me from one high school across town to the other.
Whoa.
So like I was in trouble when I started. But,
yeah. Were those rumors, was there any merit? Not that this is appropriate or, like it's just high school, whatever.
I don't think so. Like, I don't know.
Weird.
I mean, possibly I was a terrible person. I won't rule that out.
I doubt
it. I never did, I never betrayed anyone or anything like that.
It's a rough time. I mean, high school in general, than just teen years, and people are put into these crucibles of social proofing and figuring out life and how it all works. And I bet you'll share this with me. I'm so grateful that I was old enough not to be in school when social media and cell phones were ubiquitous. Cell phone video and photos were ubiquitous. What a nightmare.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to do it. I don't know. It would be nice to be able to text people because there were those nights where you were just like, is everyone out? Is everyone going out? And just no one called me on our landline, or like my sister was on the phone, so I didn't get a call,
Yeah.
And like towards the end of my high school, people started getting AIM. And so that was traumatic. But yeah, Facebook didn't happen until I was midway through college, and I think I'm grateful.
For sure. I think it's always traumatic, but that the difference is those phone calls. You try to get in touch with a girl, you'd have to ask her dad if it's okay. You could talk to her, like, hi, is she awake? It's the craziest thing. That's traumatic, but there's not a permanent record of everything that there is now. So you're haunted by every digital exchange you've had, every embarrassing moment where someone took a photo. You know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff, I think outweighs the benefits overall. At least that's from my weird uncle, my strange hermit uncle assessment from a distance.
Well, yeah, because so much about being a teenager is like figuring out what you want to do and be, and like trying out so many things, and like, oh man, putting all those phases on online for all eternity.
Right.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. You can just scroll back years through a chat record and you can see someone's you don't have the freedom for your mistakes to disappear when you
I will say the one good thing is that like if you're not cool, if you don't have friends, like you can find people on Twitter, on you can find other people like you somewhere, and that used to not be possible.
True. Very true. Yeah. There's a long list of upsides and a long list of downsides that seem to be causing all kinds of chaos throughout society. So anyway, that wasn't on our list at all, but thanks for coming on. You're one of my favorite Twitterer people.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
I forgive me. I pick up on energy. You have a good vibe, is what I mean. Like you have a very smart, intelligent, funny, creative, honest, and a lot of qualities that I'm so confused as to how you're not like a super famous screenwriter. Honestly, what's up? You explain it.
I'm really bad at it. No, I honestly, it's so interesting because I've seen people with Twitter fame convert that into jobs, and for some reason those are not offered to me. Like it's not that I try and they read my stuff and they're like, oh wait, she sucks. Yeah. Like it's that for some reason I don't get quite on the radar. But I don't know. It kind of sucks. I wish I was super famous on Twitter. I wish at this point it had done more. I mean, it's been helpful in some ways. I funded my movie almost entirely off Twitter, and that was cool. But yeah, in terms of like, it's interesting because you see like people with, I have about almost 50,000 followers, and like most people that have that range, like they have a book or they have like they're doing something, and I'm like, no, it's just Twitter. That's it.
You took down Michael Moore on a rainy Saturday long ago. I don't know what
that
what
was
the weather
so
was
long
like.
ago. That was the first that was the first viral brush with the world that I had, and it was terrifying.
Well, okay, not that we need to rehash every bit of that or the details, but he said like women are always good or something like that, just ridiculously overgeneralized, and you were like, wait a minute.
It was like weeks before the 2016 election, and he said like women have never caused climate change, and women have never been involved in starting a war, and I was like, okay. Like, I'm voting for Hillary and she's cool and women are great, but like, that's also benign misogynistic bullshit that does not allow women to have any kind of a dark side, and then you get Kellyanne Conway, who lots of people are wishing well in her life. And it's like, she is the architect of the most destructive administration in history. And you got to think part of like the slide of like, oh, I hope she does well and I hope she gets things together. It's like, she's a monster.
Right. Yeah.
Go from this administration and please never show up again.
Yeah. Go back to whatever children's fairy tale book of horrors you crawled out of.
Yeah.
With everybody else in this administration too. What a nightmare.
There's a candy house that needs a tenant somewhere.
Yeah. There's children outside a candy house that need to be eaten.
It'll be her first meal in 4 years, probably.
Yeah. Well, they have to eat innocent people, and she hasn't been around any innocent people in a long time.
Definitely not.
So that's, yeah.
I was worried about Barron for a while, but he seems to be alive.
Yeah, what an interesting POV. That's something I think about a lot, too, is like everybody, setting aside how monstrous all these people are. Unfortunately, they're humans. They share genetic similarities with you and I as much as you and I do, right? They're people. Yep. And you could make a movie from every single person's point of view. Almost anybody who comes in contact in any meaningful way with Trump is essentially this leading character in a movie about corruption or about having your head spun asunder by an encounter with that kind of wizardry of mental illness that he is emanating throughout. And but like the secrets that are being the criminals that are like the crimes that are being committed, but also like the folks who work in government that are probably just good bureaucrats that want to work, have a lifetime career government job. But they're probably also like, wow, I got to hide these documents because they're trying to delete information and they're trying to, this fascist takeover thing is real. Like they're really pushing, and it seemed pretty obvious to me from the very beginning. I don't know. It's nice that people are finally picking up on that. I'm not trying to say I'm that guy that noticed it first, but they haven't been hiding what they're up to is what I'm saying.
No, it's just that there's so much of it. It's interesting. I think, was it last year, at the beginning of last year, Rachel Maddow put out that podcast about Spiro Agnew. and all of the crimes. I mean, he was literally taking envelopes of money in the basement of the White House. That's how blatantly open his bribery schemes were going. And it's like, that's a story you never hear about because Watergate overwhelms it and Nixon overwhelmed. Like, you know, he resigned, but nobody knows that story. And it's like, there's going to be 50 stories like that in 20 years about this administration.
Oh, totally.
There's just corruption on every level and a couple of people trying to just do their job on every level.
Yeah, it's so strange and dramatic, just from a storytelling perspective. I guess is one angle I'm looking at it. It's a really
depressing story.
Very much, yeah. And
I don't think Adam McKay would know where to start with this.
Right, he'd be the perfect guy to do this kind of stuff. I haven't seen Vice. I heard Adam McKay in an interview recently. I was like, I got to get that Vice. I got to watch that movie. But
I haven't seen it either.
I hear it's good. Yeah, it's horrifying, and Trump is going to be menacing society through the next century. I mean, he'll be in all the documentaries, all the, there'll be probably a surge of books and revelations that come out after he's gone from office. And then there'll also be a trickle of things you discover, because that's also what happens with every administration. There's just like a trickle of information that kind of comes out as the truth becomes a little bit more and more clarified. So we have a better idea what happened 60 years ago than they did 59 years ago. And, it's gross that we're going to have, like, I like to imagine the Ken Burns version of the Trump years. How could you possibly?
Poor Ken. Let's not do that to him. Ken's dealt with so much already.
Like Ken's...
He doesn't...
Go ahead.
He doesn't need this.
Yeah. Ken's got like a board of like potential ideas. He's got hockey, lacrosse, Trump. Yeah. Ooh, he just shudders. Man, it's wild. So one thing I like to ask people about, we've already gotten a little bit into substance stuff, but how's your hair? How's quarantine life? Mine, just since it's vitally important, I've been yelling at my listeners about my hair for months now. And so just for your own edification, I'm recently bald. I let it all grow.
It looks good on you.
Yeah, I got a good bald head.
Yeah, you got the right shape of head for it.
Yeah. Exactly. I appreciate you saying that, because I've been the one insisting that I have a perfect skull. That's nice to have that confirmed from an outsider. I do. I handle my wear baldness extremely well. But I've let it grow out to it was like 3 inches. It was wild. It was it was warm, and I have so much respect and sympathy for people with hair now, and I'm so grateful that I'm bald. It is so much easier. I can dry my head in under 3 seconds. Your reaction?
Yeah, that would be nice. No, my hair is 17 feet long. And because I have very, very thick, very curly hair, it's a cut. The way it is cut by a professional is this cut called a bevel cut, where it's in like 50 layers and it goes down and up, almost kind of like a wave at the bottom, which is impossible to do on my own. And if you have thick curly hair and you cut it all to one length, you get triangle head. Like it just poofs enormously at the bottom and is flat on top. So I can't cut it myself. It is turning a variety of silver colors. I'm really starting to get gray. And I have Forest Witch hair at this point. For a couple of months, it was really cool and doing this like super curly 70s album cover rock chick thing. But now it's just long and I need to go find some kind of a hut in the wilderness and live out my days there, because it's not acceptable for human sight at this point.
Yeah, well, you can check out some listings down there at the Graham Cracker District, where they make houses out of chocolate and graham crackers. Don't go to the candy place where Kellyanne Conway lives. We don't stay away from that realm of the land.
Yeah, well, in LA, 4 graham crackers will cost you, $900,000. And that's, you have to stack them yourselves into the cottage. Like it's just a vacant lot and 4 graham crackers.
And it's DIY marshmallows. And it's like, really? We're doing this again?
Absolutely.
What is this, the 1800s? I hear that. Okay, so, but it hasn't been causing too much headache. I just enjoy the ways that people's hair functions within their sense of self and their sense of identity and whatever. And are you look forward to going back? Are you looking forward to going back to the before times where, like, will anything be different about your hair, and or general comments about people dealing with this throughout the realm?
I'm definitely looking forward to getting my haircut someday. But I mean, it seems so far off at this point, like, because I have anxiety to begin with. When I will feel comfortable going back into society seems like a long time from now. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to still resign myself
from from like a fear of the bug and kind of safety.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm high risk. My husband is high risk,
right.
and I have like pretty severe health related anxiety to begin with. So it's like way to add the perfect crisis to my existing psychology.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be until there's a vaccine for me, because I know people are going, and like I had a friend who a hairdresser came to their house and cut their hair outside, and that's reasonably safe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not safe.
Yeah. Like I had some friends surprise say, "Hey, we're in Venice Beach. Come, want to go get dinner?" And these are people I hadn't seen in a few years, comedy buddies from Chicago. And I was like, I want to see you guys, but I won't enjoy leaving the house for any reason. I don't want to. Then I'm just going to be nervous about getting my roommate sick or me getting sick, or the whole calculus of where's my comfort level, where's my risk tolerance, or what comfort are my risk tolerances allowing me to experience right now, is like, I just want to stay in, avoid everything. I'm very lucky to have gotten unemployment money that allows me to not have to be out doing Postmates or something, some god awful gig work, which I've done for quite a bit in this town. And yeah, it's a weird thing. So are you able to go for walks, or how kind of limiting? Or
our neighborhood is very non-mask friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is out, like, people are out. We live about a block from a park, and it's full all the time of people not wearing masks. So it's been really depressing. Like, people have had block parties on our street. Like, there's just nobody is paying attention. So no, we have a little bit of a yard on our house, so I can be out in that, but that's it. The only time I've left the house since quarantine is I had a doctor's appointment. And then also my writing partner and I have once in a while been like doing full 14-day. We don't leave the house. We don't go to grocery stores, nothing. And then like we'll have a couple days where we can get together and work in person.
Wow.
So I've gone to his apartment a couple of times, and that's it.
So yeah. I went to a march in Highland Park for BLM with a friend, and that was like, kept very secure, whatever. And I don't think I got sick from that or anything. And
very few people did. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there are lower risk activities and there are higher risk activities. And if you're outside and you're wearing a mask, it's going to be pretty low risk.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems to me like most people are treating this like it's a diet, where like, if you cheat once in a while, it won't ruin your overall progress. But like, it's Russian roulette. Like, if you get hit with this thing, that's it. It only takes, like, you see people that have gotten sick and are like, but I only went to one thing. And it's like,
yeah,
that's all it takes. Yeah. Like, it's not a cumulative issue.
Right. That's a good metaphor, diet or analogy or simile. I don't know what. Okay, I'd get stuck if repeating those words if you'd let me. Yeah, you're right. That is kind of like, I always think about how people go to work at hospitals. That's a high risk thing, and people spend hours and hours a day, day after day after day, and they don't get the illness if they follow the proper precautions. A lot of them don't know, of course. But when I think about, okay, I got to go to the DMV and I got to return a thing to Kohl's because of an Amazon return. And I'm like, oh man, I can't know if I should go. But like, no, people are going to a hospital for 40 hours a week. You can probably walk into Kohl's and, rub that sanitizer crap on your hands and you'll probably be okay. But I do like trying to minimize all the risk. And it's amazing though how others don't seem to be bothered whatsoever. Eating, I don't know how you could eat at a restaurant with a waiter's wearing a mask. It's so weird.
Yeah, and
I
mean, that's relaxing. I find that really incredibly self-absorbed to do that to restaurant workers too, to put them at danger for your pleasure. Like, that makes me unhappy. I mean, we're all doing that. If we're getting stuff delivered, we're all doing that to some extent. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people have never really been close to death or dealt with chronic health stuff.
Right. And
don't know how serious, like, they know abstractly, but they don't know concretely what it is they're actually risking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe they're just I think everybody sort of has a narrative of their own life and their own story And like for mine, I want my narrative to be, I listened to the science and I tried to be careful in a country that made it as like in a video game sense, like maximum difficulty for this pandemic. It's like we chose to do this pandemic because of our inept leadership, our structural institutions that aren't set up to prepared to deal with this at all. So everything is just more complicated. And for me personally, I want to be able to say I was careful, I was cautious, I respected people's safety, my own safety. But some people are just like, I did it for 2 months and I got to go back out to eat because that was my routine before, and I miss my blackened Jamaican chicken from Applebee's or whatever. I don't know what it is that drives people out so much, but I don't know. It's weird. Speaking of stories, let's. How do we want to approach? So you made a film.
I did. Yeah.
You wrote, directed.
Yes.
You kind of you did everything by yourself, more or less.
No,
let me rephrase.
Definitely did not do everything by myself.
I didn't mean that. I mean like you initiated, and you kind of like you of course had a lot of dedicated folks, because it's extremely collaborative. I didn't mean to take away anybody else's contribution to it. Because I know that's like
I'm not a film by.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I know that I recall you saying a film by. Is that what is that? Why does that bother you? Can you maybe expand on that a little bit?
It bothers me because if you've ever been on a set, you know that everybody is vital to the process of making a film. If you don't have PAs to get you coffee, your movie is not going to be as good. And if you don't have somebody that understands plugs really well, you're not like, I don't like the privileging of some jobs in films over others. And I especially don't like the privileging of directors over others, because in my opinion, and I'm not a very good director, and I pretty much the only thing I've directed is this movie, like a director is mostly middle management. You aren't doing anything more important than the cinematographer or the writer or the editor, certainly not the editor, who I think are the true unsung heroes.
Here.
So a film by just always seems to me to be like shitting on your crew to some extent. And I don't know. It helped that I was the person with the least experience pretty much on my set, but besides some of the actors. Like, so there was no way I could look and be like, yeah, I'm the one making this work. It was like, no, everyone else is pulling me through this. And my job is to be deeply grateful at all times.
For sure. Yeah. Would you be okay? And I don't hope it doesn't sound like I'm defending this or something, but the phrasing is very specific for how they write credits. Like a film by Wes Anderson versus a Wes Anderson film. Is that a difference? Is that roughly the same?
Usually, I think when you say a Wes Anderson film, that references that they were a producer.
Oh, okay. I see.
I think I might be wrong
That's
on
okay.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a Wes Anderson film suggests that like they are in charge of the overall production in some way. A film by tends to suggest that theirs is the sole creative vision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more true in something like Wes Anderson, somebody who has a super distinct style. But like, where would Wes Anderson be without his costume designers? Where would he be without his production designers? He'd just be a guy who shoots things symmetrically a lot, and I just
symmetric.
I just think the devaluing of everybody else's job is part of why Hollywood has such an abusive culture.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I don't like it.
I get you. Yeah, it's is that being corrected? Slow. I mean, is that what? In addition to not just the Me Too movement and that side of the story, but also just the way smaller, like I saw there was a hashtag going around a few months ago about assistants and Hollywood assistants and stuff, and how like this. I'm using the word crucible again. Now I'm hung up on the fact that I'm using the word more than once, but this like foundry of stress and difficulty, and like, well, that's how it always been. Hey, I had to go through this horribly abusive system where I worked 19-hour days and got barely paid anything, but hey, I made connections and now I'm a big shot and you should do the same. And people were actually finally sharing information about what they're paid, and like they weren't necessarily naming names. I think that's happening more and more, and that's good. And I think broadly workers at the bottom are starting to assert their voices, and I think that's partially what's pushing this world in hopefully a better direction.
I think there's grassroots progress, and I think you really have to tie a push for diversity of voices and underrepresented people coming into the industry for that. That's them, because people who are used to being oppressed and treated shittily are going to be less likely to do it to others, I think, and be, more aware of how to survive that and how to make some progress. But I think there is still so much overwhelming power at the top. And it is still such an industry that runs on kind of a reputation that is not fair. It is still a very patriarchal, industry, and a very, in an industry where you get anywhere by recommendations by people. If 75% of the people are white men, 75% of the people they're going to recommend are white men. And It's very hard to break through that barrier. So I think at the lower levels, you are seeing people organizing and being more helpful to each other and trying to seize any power they can, but they're up against a real Goliath in actually causing systemic change in the industry.
Yeah, the Goliaths of the world are all employing their crisis management teams a lot lately. It seems like they want to pretend like they're listening. Oh, we hear you, but we're going to make some kind of token changes, but we don't really want. This worked out great for my grandfather. This worked out great for my dad. This worked out great for me, and I'm going to make sure that it's going to work out for my son. It's like all these weird little modern kingdoms of hierarchical like lineages and that maintain power.
Well, and it's all the same structure. Like, you look at the government, you look at the film industry, you look at it's always the same structure, because we have one system, and it's a patriarchal alpha dog system, and it disseminates across pretty much every industry out there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a long time before that changes.
Right.
You just have to, I think, fight it as loudly as you can.
Yeah. And, like every industry, they benefit from the ease with which they can replace you, right? Yeah. Like, it's hard to find NBA players that are of the same caliber to just step in and do the job when the NBA guys go on strike. It's not that hard to find a housekeeper who can clean a house, who's also someone else who's desperate, or say in the Hollywood world, it's not that hard to, some PA speaks up that they don't like something. Well, guess what? You're not going to work here. There's a million people ready to jump in and take that spot. Because
well, and Hollywood is interesting because talent is overvalued from the outside. Mm-hmm. We think that it's a business that runs primarily on talent, and that, like, you couldn't be replaced because there's nobody as good as you. But the truth is that good matters less than likable a lot of times, or good in a room matters better than actually good on a page a lot of times. And so that skews it a little bit more, because something you think is really important actually functionally is not. Okay. Or we would not have so many bad movies. Right
on. All right. Man, you have such a more informed perspective than I do, and I appreciate that. Your movie, though, I haven't seen it. I was we scheduled this a little quickly, and I wanted to watch it before we talked. I donated to it. I was grateful to help out. It's I think it's fantastic. I make videos constantly. I've made a couple of short films, nothing anywhere near the degree of what you made. So I have so much respect for the gumption and just the get up and do it kind of attitude at least that's how the way I detected that this was all going down. And the follow through is also like, it's especially impressive, because man, the amount of projects I've abandoned about 20% in, it's huge. So, did you have this idea, like, had it been cooking in you for a long time, or did you know exactly what story you wanted to tell, or how?
No. No. It happened very suddenly. My husband and I were on vacation. We were visiting my family, and they live in Sonoma County, which is where I grew up, and I love it up there. And I think it was like maybe April of 2017, and I said, we could shoot a movie here this summer. We could finally get ourselves together and just do it. We could shoot it. I have two nieces who are fantastic actresses and I think have really interesting chemistry. So I was like, we could put them in it. We could just do it and finally have done something, because we're not doing anything and the world is terrible because Donald Trump has just been elected and everything looks dark. So we could make something nice. So like that was
That's revolutionary.
Yeah, that was the idea. We wanted to make something earnest and pleasant and that would make people feel good. And we wanted to do it that summer, and we wanted to do it with those people in Sonoma County. And from those parameters, I wrote the script in about 2 months. And we started shooting in August of that year. And yeah, I found an example that I like to use to sort of describe how I work, which is there are certain trees, beech nut trees, go through a thing called a mast year, where like for years they're dormant and they don't really produce anything and they're kind of just storing up energy. And then they'll have a mast year where everything bursts out and they put out a massive, massive crop of beech nuts. And I think I have a beech nut tree because like most of the time I am fairly low energy, but then I will have extremely active periods.
Not just a steady drip of acorns like those boring ass old oaks. Those people,
consistency. I admire it. And I don't have it. So this was my huge burst of energy, and thank God it was as big as it was, because it was a very challenging movie to make for a variety of reasons.
Right. I mean, not the least of which I would guess would be just budgetary, right? I mean, you just didn't have, you had limited resources and limited everything was limited.
Everything was limited. I don't tend to write small. Like most of my scripts are large budget genre movies. Mm-hmm. So writing something that was mostly two people talking in different locations was new and tricky. There were just a lot of, the Sonoma County wildfires happened. We took a break from filming for a couple of months, and the wildfires happened and burnt down a lot of our sets.
Yeah.
In that period, I also had heart surgery. There were several unexpected turns to trying to get that movie.
That's a classic
shot.
Spielbergian maneuver, is to have heart surgery in the middle of. People don't know that every film he makes, there's a heart surgery.
He gets heart surgery in the middle.
Yeah, it's just this process. Yeah.
They just leave his chest open at this point, so they can just pull it apart. And he just velcros it.
They just plant a single strand of George Lucas's beard in his heart, and that's how those two are forever linked as the future gods of our kingdom.
I like this.
Yeah,
it's a good myth.
Okay, so next time you're on, I definitely will have seen it, and we can maybe talk about more. I don't know if you wanted to or not, but what would you do differently? I mean, obviously your first directorial debut. I imagine you have probably it's worth a kind of education you can only get from doing something and getting a real world experience. What would you? Yeah. What are some things you learned? And you don't have to share all your hard fought secrets, but mistakes you made.
It's still hard to process it. Yeah. Like it's still hard to figure out what I learned. I mean, I was learning constantly. There was no part of it that was not learning for me, because I'd never directed a film before.
Right.
So much of it was new. I mean, I think like this isn't useful to anyone, but I think I gained a much better understanding of visual filmmaking, which I never really which had put me off directing, because it's like I'm not a visual learner. I had never like examined camera angles really closely to see what effect they have or anything, and now I have that capability. So that was cool. That was kind of a trial by fire to get that skill. I don't know. The biggest thing I learned was that I was always afraid I would be an egotistical monster as a director, because that was my experience being on set, was that the directors were just giant toddlers for the most part. And it was awful for everybody around them. And I was like, well, God, I never want to do that to people. So it was tremendously relieving and freeing to get to set the first day and be like, yeah, that's not how this is going to go. Like, I am astounded that we've made it here and that all these people have given up their time to come make this thing. I mean, we're paying them, but still, like, it's hard work. And, I just wanted to make it a really enjoyable and fun experience for everybody. And so knowing that I had that control to make the tone of my set tense or not tense, like, that was a wonderful lesson. it's a skill I wish more directors had.
Right. Even if it's for selfish reasons, to be like, you know what? People give you their best when you respect them and when they don't feel overwhelmed and overstressed. So I'm going to create conditions so that they can do that. And that means treating them nicely instead of just
and I mean,
tyrannical.
it's still exhausting. It's still a long day. It's still stressful. Like there's never, the crises come up and they're stressful, but like, if you approach it with the idea of like, filmmaking is chaos and the movie we get is going to be a result of the challenges we get through to make it, like not some perfect version that I have in my head. The more I was able to accept that, the more fun I had. Okay. Honestly, I've never had more fun than being on that set.
Was fun meaning like the process? Of course, it's probably everything, but like, would it just be like seeing the result every day? You'd be surprised by some choice an actor made or something like that. Is that the kind of fun you mean? Or I don't know why I'm asking you to clarify that.
I think just getting to be with people in a creative environment day in and day out, like just really like the appreciation of like, we get to spend 12 hours today making shit up and playing with stuff, and it's silly, and like the days go by in an hour if you're really enjoying yourself. And I hope it did for my poor crew. It did for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
how quickly
it was just always exciting.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's you're producing beach nuts. It's just this outpouring of creative spirit, and everybody else has a similar instincts that they're following as well. And I think I can see why that would be. How quickly do you kind of start thinking about the next day when you're shooting? Are you so focused in the moment? Because that's one of the, like, I would love to direct or something like that, but I would need a lot of help with organization and planning. I'm not good at either of those.
Neither was I.
Yeah.
We had an amazing line producer, our producer Jen Milliman, who was really good at scheduling out our days, and we had a great AD, especially in the second half of our production. The first half we didn't really have an AD. Jen was kind of sort of filling in for that job. In the second half we got one, Ashley Sims, who was amazing, and that helped. Like literally the first day of our second half of shooting, which was all interiors that we shot in LA, we ended up the first day something like 4 pages behind.
Wow.
We just ran out of time, and we were working with a minor actress, so we only got her for 10 hours. So Ashley and Jen and I just sat down that first night and were like, here's how we're going to buy back that time, and just adjusted the schedule for the whole rest of the week. And it gave us, I think we had 3 13-page days as a result, which is insanity.
Mm-hmm.
But even that process of like, here's a problem, we have to solve it or there is no movie. So how do we solve it? Like that is fun for me. For me, the joy of creation is in the doing. A lot of people, it's in the imagining of what the thing will be, I think, or in the result. And for me, it's much more about like when you're in it, when you get to find those problems and be creative together and find workarounds, that's amazing. So, most of the time I was too involved in it to think about the next day, but like the times where we actually had to sit down and change stuff for the next day, those were very intense but exciting.
Yeah, I would think. It's I get the sense it's like building a tree house on a toboggan that's already launched off the mountain. You're just it's just momentum is tumbling forward, and you have to do what you can and do the best you can.
It brought back so much about what I loved about doing theater when I was younger, which is that like if something goes wrong on stage, you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You can't start over.
You don't stop and just cry and just kind of crumble. And,
you can't run away.
Fuck.
And that's what feels so magical about live performance is like, you really are, you're moving and building at the same time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that a film set would be sort of the same environment. And it was great.
That's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations on it. I'm so impressed. And when's the next one coming out? Or when are you getting the itch?
When is this one coming out?
When is this one?
Yeah, this one is still in the midst of trying to get distribution. I have no idea.
So you're focused on this one now. I mean, this is still kind
with
of
COVID.
Yeah,
I have no idea when it will be safe to shoot again. So
right,
it's bleak right now.
So how do I have a very simple question? How do I become a highly paid, famous comedy writer?
God, I don't know.
By the end of the day tomorrow. Tell me.
I think the only thing I've ever gotten paid for comedy is about $40 for articles. So, you know,
more than me.
Yeah, I have no, like, Cracked wouldn't hire me.
Yeah.
Even now. And I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, maybe not comedy necessarily, screenwriting. And I'm kind of just trying to approach that topic of like, so, because I feel that's my strength, although I actually think that maybe there's a future where I write some heavy emotional shit too, because I have crawled out of the emotion mines of Midwestern white people, generational trauma. So we're all experts on that kind of stuff, I think, at least those of us with creative instincts that are chasing it. What do I do? How do I know I'm making it about me, but like,
why are you asking me? I don't
know.
anybody doing this. I think the sum total, I think over 10 years off of screenwriting specifically, I have made $21,000.
All right. Hell yeah.
So, and one of those was a grant in college.
Okay.
And the other one was a script my partner and I got hired to rewrite at the beginning of this year.
I see.
But yeah, no, I don't know. To me, I always feel like I am outside the party a little bit on how to actually turn skill into paid work.
Right.
Because I don't know if you have this experience, but people read my stuff and love my stuff and say, hey, why aren't you working? Why aren't you in a room? Why aren't you? And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea why. Like, maybe I'm a terrible person. I don't know. So I sadly have no answers.
You being a terrible person has nothing to do with it at all. You're gonna be a great forest witch with the graham cracker house.
I'm glad I don't have to change being a terrible person to be successful.
No,
like, that would be
that actually maybe you should up the terribleness. Just slide the slider up just a little bit. You'll fit in. That's how you
couple
get.
More months of quarantine.
Yeah, you're just too nice. Yeah, you're not terrible enough. Maybe it summarizes with this, and I'm such a hayseed, honestly. Like I have very little insider perspective. I don't even have like very many long conversations with those who do. So I'm not even borrowing that. Most of my perception comes from working within like the news and digital world a little bit with like Young Turks and Jimmy Dore and blah 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 over the years that have been in LA. But it just seems to me, and within comedy and stand up, and I've made a little money doing stand up and making videos and stuff like that. But the hardest thing and the thing that it's so difficult to find people who can say yes, even if they have the power to say yes. Then the next step is to get them to say yes to something that you're involved with.
Well, and you need 20 people to say yes.
Yeah.
Like it's so. The farther and farther I get into this business and the more friends I have who have found success, like the more it's clear that it is entirely luck. You have to meet the right person at the right time and have exactly what they're looking for. And they're able to then take it to exactly the right person. And I mean, it's a lottery. Like you can be talented and you can be a good person and you can work on getting connections. And that's pretty much all you can do because the rest of it is completely luck. Yeah. I know amazing writers who are wonderful people who cannot get work. I know crappy writers who are celebrated and getting extremely wealthy.
Name them.
No, I will not name them.
That's not cool.
And I know people that have just kind of chugged along and done their work and slowly worked their way up. Like there's no, it's luck. It's absolutely luck.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, you need a grounding of talent and stuff like that, but
yeah, it's not random the way, a hawk.
You need either talent or connections. You know, if your last name is Landis, you can get away without talent.
So change your last name. I'm changing my last name to Landis.
Okay?
I wouldn't. You two will all be Landises and we'll just get it. So from the comedy world, which I've kind of given up on trying to become a stand-up comedian professionally, although I think I have enough of a foundation in doing it that if my star rose in some other way and I was able to gain some prominence, then I would have access to stand-up again, meaning like I don't want to go back to open mics and grind my way out of the muck of the sludge wastelands of open mics. You can get a lot out of that, and I'm not trying to drag it, but it is a grind, and it's not a grind I have energy for anymore, especially without being drunk all the time, which is what required. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, this was going to be my big thing this year. Is I was finally going to try stand up, And then the pandemic
Really?
happened. So
What made you want to do that?
Well, I never thought I was particularly funny until Twitter, which possibly has given me a vastly overinflated sense of how funny I am. But it seemed like people found me funny. And then I did some comedy writing for Bunny Ears and The Toast. And like, it's like, maybe this is actually something I could develop. I won't say I was talented at it, but like maybe it's something I could get better at. And I've always liked being on stage. I don't get stage fright. I loved acting, so it seemed like
that's just
worth a shot.
Yeah, those are some signs pointing towards it, to give it a try and just see how it feels. I love talking. So during all my time in Chicago doing stand-up, I'd be out like 6 nights a week at least for about 4 years. And then I did quite a lot in LA. So I was like established as one of the regular open mic guys, and I wasn't like, and I was working hard, and then, you slowly earn your kind of, it's very status based, and you kind of, there's a social ladder, there's the stage kind of ladder, it all sort of folds in on itself. And just a remark on the luck thing, and then I'll try to finish this thought if I can remember what I'm about to say. Like, I do think that you can influence the conditions in which luck is more or less likely. You know what I mean? Like in terms of comedy, because I was really relating to what you were saying. Like luck in terms of, does the right person see you who can say yes, who can open the door for you, and where you fit some need that they're looking for, and then are you also able to like follow through with some talent and some hard work that'll help you once you get there. But it's very luck based. But you can also, when I stopped showing up to do stand-up, I knew that there was a lot less luck to be found.
Sure.
That's what I mean. Like, I know that my work ethic,
put yourself in the situation.
Yeah, you can. That's the influential part of it. Not that you can create luck, but that you can kind of. And I think I'm trying to like parse this out, because I think this applies to the rest of life too. Is that like you can influence conditions that make luck more or less likely, and that's basically all I really was going to go on about that. But as far as doing a lot of stand-up and being. I loved it, new people when they would go up. I always found it fascinating. I couldn't stand them after their first time, because now they're just some new person in the way of taking up time on the list. That's really annoying. But the first experience of stand-up is a pretty intense thing, in my opinion. It was for me, and it seems to be for a lot of people.
All stage work is relational, and that is such a vulnerable relationship when you're going up and asking people to like you enough to laugh at things you're saying. That's intensely vulnerable. That's hardcore. If you're playing Hamlet or something, people kind of know what they're going to get. But nobody has idea what you're going to say when you're a beginning comedian going up there. So I don't know. I find that's a little bit of a danger high. I think I would like to ride at some point. It scares the shit out of me. So that seems worth doing.
Yes. Well, one of the things like people learn is that you're not going to die. Your body thinks you are. It's that fight or flight. You get this panic.
I might.
You might. Yeah, that's true. If you've got a heart issue or something. But you said you're good with stages, or at least you don't have that fright. Although going up alone and just nothing but a microphone and your voice, that's a.
I mean, I was a singer for a long time.
All right.
So I used to do a lot of that. But again, like then you know what you're doing. It's more, it's not really dependent on the response of the audience.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it would be an interesting and enlightening experience.
I agree. I think you should give it a go.
Necessarily think I'd be good at it.
Yeah. In 2025, when the pandemic is over and Ivanka is taking office, maybe we'll be allowed to get enough Jared Kushner bucks to. I mean,
I could just open my window and scream jokes out of my house.
That would work.
That's probably the closest I can get right now.
I think you might be onto something. There's probably something there. Let me know if you ever want to run your jokes by somebody. I don't know. I always like to coach new people to get for their first time. Basically say you're fine. Don't worry about it. It's just like, it doesn't really matter. Honestly, just making sure that you get through it. And, the more important sets are sets 2 through 1,000, not so much number 1. Although number 1
that makes a lot of sense.
Very much matters. But you're I don't know if you're doing it to pursue a stand-up career per se, unless you absolutely fell smash head over heels for it.
I think I like the idea of just flexing the I've worked more and more comedy into my writing of scripts. So like being able to flex that muscle in different directions, I think is it's counter training a little bit. Because, you write a joke in a screenplay and maybe 5 years from now it gets made and someone laughs at it. Like that's not much of a payoff.
Yeah. It's a different set of feedback mechanisms. That's what you just brought up. Like with stand up, it's so amazing because I started I always wanted to be a writer, not like a Hollywood writer guy, but like I just had an affinity for words as a young kid and whatever. But I didn't have any real coalescing of a focus. I was like, just kind of fumbling through life because I couldn't stop time. And then I finally found stand up. But so I didn't have like stage experience at all when I started doing stand up. My first time on stage or doing comedy was my first time. Why am I messing this up? I hadn't been on stage since I was in a play as a little kid. And so it was pretty nerve wracking to do all that. And it was all, what the hell? I had some other point I was trying to get at with this. So I kind of developed my writing, at least as far as more of a focused career effort for stage performance, for comedy, for stand up. And then after time, you start to realize, well, I'm really probably going to make this a real go in life. So maybe because stand up comedy can open up all sorts of other doors and avenues. And maybe I'll start writing scripts for sketches, and then I've written a couple of half-hour comedy things. I'd like to write for animation. That's kind of where I'm at, where I'm mostly targeting my energy, and or at least my hopes. So let's not say energy. And learning how to. So when I write jokes in a script or even on Twitter, I intuitively know there's a voice and a tone that is unique to me, or at least something from me that I know is often not being captured by the words. And that's why I blame my objectively terrible Twitter ability.
I don't think you're terrible at Twitter. I think you're great at Twitter.
Let me make my case. If I were good at Twitter, in using a measuring tool that is not necessarily healthy, which is to say how many people follow you, what response do you get from what you do? If I were good at it, of the 40,000 plus tweets I would have written, something would have gotten me more than the 1,920 or whatever it is followers that I have. Like that's all. That would be like the law, like the courtroom case I would make for it. But I do appreciate what you're saying. Now go ahead, flatter.
It's a very specific voice. Twitter, and I think if I have comedic instincts, which I'm not going to actually say I have, but they have been so developed by the fact that for some reason what I write gets a response on Twitter that it doesn't get anywhere. It's certainly not with real people. But it's a very specific voice. It's like being good at punning or being good at rhyming or something like that. It's a specific comedy skill, I think, to be funny on Twitter that you kind of have to hone. And like 3/4 of the time when I go viral, I have no idea why. They're usually not things I find funny at all. Or that I'm just like, that's a dumb thing, I'll say. And then 70,000 people retweet it. And it's like, oh, you're all idiots. You're not funny. I'm funnier than that.
Why didn't you see the brilliant one I wrote 3 months ago?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My best, what I consider my best tweets get about 19 likes.
That's funny. Yeah, I agree. Like it is kind of, some people just have that, whatever it is about the way that they formulate their sentences that works perfectly for that medium. And I think you could probably say that's true about Instagram or all the other social media platforms. I know for a fact that I don't. I think occasionally I can string some words together and, with a perspective that might be a little bit off, a little askew from the standard thing people are writing at the time, but I don't have that. Like it's almost like proteins and amino acids trying to like find that exact perfect fit. And sometimes I'm like, I kind of, because like, some drugs are sort of like they're the similar fit, but not quite, and they block it. And like, there's like partial fit.
Well,
I'm not that, I've never felt like I've been able to like really dial that in.
You think like Mike Birbiglia, one of my favorite comedians in the world, is a storytelling comedian. His stories would not work very well on Twitter. Certainly they rely so much on tone and delivery and a build up and callback and like all of these devices that you need. Like those wouldn't really work on Twitter. But he's still one of the funniest people in the world. So, you have to just have the kind of Dorothy Parker style of, I think Elaine May would be great on Twitter and Mike Nichols would not be.
I'm nodding my head as if I know who those, I don't know any.
You don't know Nichols and May?
No. What is
Hank?
What are we talking about?
Nichols and May? The greatest comedy duo of the 50s, man. Come on. Okay. All right, I'm sending you some Nichols and May stuff.
Send me some Nichols and May. I'm curious to see it. I'm not against learning about the past, but I also am a creature of the present and do not have any. No, I don't have. Yeah, I don't have that foundational kind of stuff. I have some of it. You ever seen a picture of what's his face? So guy with the mustache and the cigar and the eyebrows.
Groucho Marx.
Groucho Marx. Yes. Hi, it's Hank here from the future. Actually, I was talking about Charlie Chaplin. I described Groucho Marx, and her guess was accurate. I said yes to that because I'm a dumbass. It was actually Charlie Chaplin. All right, back to the show. The photo of him is just a regular guy. I remember seeing that, and I was just like, this is the same crazed eyes of every comedian I know. I loved it. It just felt so familiar, just seeing this kind of like, you could sense this intelligence in him, but also like he had that like intelligence, slightly troubled, creative energy that sort of is like simmering behind his eyes, and it's fascinating. I don't know why I brought that up. So my historical that's about the summary of my historical grounding. So send me this Nichols and May.
Yeah,
and Dorothy
I will send
Parker.
You some Nichols and May.
Yeah, I'm down.
Sure.
Help me understand. I will admit to my ignorance. Well, much like the professional athletes who don't know who like Walter Payton was or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of, I am the most ignorant filmmaker in the world, so I cannot talk.
There's your new business card. There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Is this topic boring you? Or you kind of marinate in this stuff? You and your partner, what's it like having a writing partner? I mean, obviously you have to be friends. It's not like an adversarial relationship.
Yeah, no, we're very, very good friends. It's funny. We had just started working together when I think I came on your show the last time, and I completely gushed about how we were. And, we've had many screaming arguments since then.
Nice.
So it's not exactly a simpatico, but I don't know. It is amazing having a writing partner. It can be challenging because you don't always see things exactly the same way. But like my husband said, he once was in the next room and overheard Nick and I just talking to each other, and my writing partner, Nick. And my husband was just like, the two of you were basically finishing each other's sentences, and one of you would be like, yeah, and then this could happen. And the other one would be like, yeah, and then this, and then this. And it's like, yes, that was exactly what I was thinking. And he was like, I have no idea how you do that. I don't operate on that level at all. And the two of you just seem to, I don't know, run on the same software, I think.
Two hands holding the same pen, kind of almost.
Yeah. And it's amazing to not have to go into meetings by yourself, to not have to, read rejection emails by yourself, to always have somebody who feels the same amount of shitty about something.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So it's great. I think it's a rare relationship to work out well.
Right.
But we've been doing it for 5 years now and have not killed each other.
Well, there you go. If you can survive.
And we write separately sometimes. We're not hooked together at all times. There are sometimes one of us, he didn't work on the movie. He read every draft, gave me notes on every draft, and he was our VFX supervisor, but like he didn't write it. He's had scripts that I haven't been on. Once in a while, one of us will get an idea. The other person will be like, I don't really see me on this. Yeah. And that's fine. Like we've never been possessive about that.
Yes. Like I could see how you might run the risk. It's separating that you and Nick, your own specific personalities, but like how any writing duo might have a risk of, oh no, like what if the other person does well without me? Now that might break it up, or are they going to pull me along somehow? Is that how I want to succeed? The pitfalls seem to be pretty obvious, but also I think the benefits, if it works, sound great. Sound like it really can be.
It's a lot like marriage in that, like, at a certain point, you want the other person to be happy more than you want to make sure you get yours. Mm-hmm. So, like, if he got famous and I didn't, that would be great for him. And I'm sure eventually we'd find a way to work together within that. He was a little jealous, I think, when I was making the movie without him, just because he was stuck at a 9-to-5 job and he wanted to be off making a movie.
For sure.
But, but also totally supportive of it. So, you can be jealous and still take care of each other.
We won't have any of these problems once all the AIs take over and replace every creative person in Hollywood, when the artificial intelligences are assuming all of the roles that are trying to be filled by us types.
This is true. I can't wait.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
My stupid joke about AI is that we'll know that they're really good at it when they all get depression. That's how when all the AIs become depressed
or they start shit talking each other.
Yeah, when they just start having like petty, weird little squabbles.
When robots start subtweeting, then we're really, the human race has nothing left to offer.
Or when the AIs invent AI. Oh man, now we're fucked. That's a whole nother.
Then we're that's their babies.
Yes.
Then we're completely useless.
Yes. Yeah. And the cycles of birth and rebirth will continue until ecological disaster forces us all to die of cannibal-related diseases. So okay, that's cool. I'm not sure what else there is. I'm fascinated by all the specifics, and I feel inspired to like dust off my screenwriting software I haven't fired up in a few years. I've only written 2 like finished scripts that I would like show someone if they said, "Do you have anything written?" I'd be like, "Yeah, not enough, but here's hopefully enough for you to hire me."
2 is great.
Yeah,
2 is awesome.
An original and I wrote a Bob's Burgers.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. See, I'm not even I know people that go to meetings and like pitch their stuff, and I've never even been close to one of those, other than like talking to friends that are about to do it. So yeah, I feel like I'd be good in a room. I'd be like, I'm white.
I think you'd be very good in a room.
I'm a male. Hire me. No.
Yeah. What is there? What else is there?
Yeah.
No, I think you'd be great in a room.
Oh.
I think I scare people.
You scare people? You think so?
Well, I think if I get really passionate about things, I come off as too intense.
Yeah.
And if I try to hold back on that, then I come off as disinterested. So there's not a good happy medium I've found.
Yes,
people have the default assumption that I'm snobby a lot.
Really?
Oh yeah. And I don't know if that's warranted or just, men.
Yeah.
But that's a hard one to get around.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not catching any snob vibes off you. Although it'd be weird if I said I did. Like, I'm getting a little snob off you. Why don't you dial it back? All right. So someday I'll have some screenwriting successes of my own to share. Hopefully,
you will.
maybe in the future.
Someday we both will have some screenwriting successes.
Well, I feel like the path that I think I'm might as well just keep talking about it. I don't send out anything. I don't send queries. I don't go to networking events. I'm terrible at self-promotion and networking. So my only hope of success is to build an audience on my own, and then that might open doors. So that's kind of the approach that I'm taking as far as getting something I wrote made, or at least enough to get me hired as a comedy writer somewhere. If I can build a podcast audience, if I can build some videos that that get enough attention, and then you reach those levels where those doors start to become opened, and that's sort of the only. And basically, I'm saying like I think I should have to prove it in order to get my foot in the door. I think
that's a really common way of doing it. I mean, I think pretty much my approach has been the same the last, when I was a newer writer, like I did all of the querying and all of that stuff, and it never got anywhere. And primarily anything I have gotten has been like, oh, I met this person on Twitter and then they read my stuff and then they gave it to another person. And like, it's been connections, and social media seems to be the most efficient way to do that.
Right.
But then again, also the goalposts move. And that can be really difficult, because at first it was like, well, hey, if you get over 10,000 followers, then doors will open. And then I did, and then they didn't. And then it's like, well, hey, if you make a feature, then people will start wanting to rep you and stuff like that. No. If you get into a couple of film festivals, then more will start contacting you to put the film in the festival. You won't even have to apply. No. Like, so I don't know where success and things start paying off is.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I like doing the work.
Well,
otherwise it would be miserable.
I agree. I mean, I'm kind of miserable by default, but it's not because of a lack of success. I would like to try to have mental illness while rich. I do look forward to those days.
That would be nice.
That would be fun. I'm kind of curious to see if I'm still the same guy. I imagine I'll be more or less the same, slightly more, recently updated underwear collection, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, sad but fancy. Is
exactly.
The dream.
Yeah.
It's all we can dare to dream for.
Big words across the waistband. That's how you know you're rich. But my train of thought just died. It's gone. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Got stuck on big words on underwear. And
big words on underwear sent me. Being like doing the work is what I was saying. Like nobody really becomes a self-taught animator who doesn't enjoy the process. I mean, that's what I am right now. And I make money doing video editing and motion graphics and stuff. And So like I've been able to like forge from the crucible. No, that's not even the right usage. A career, some kind of work and career as a video editor, and I think I'm a pretty good video editor. And when I talk to clients, I always tell them like I have good taste. I like to just announce that. Be like, I have good taste, and I will make you something that I like. And that is
I'm so jealous of you being able to get away with saying something like that. If I said something like that, it would be like, oh, woman,
really?
get out of here.
I've said that like, well, I think I've said this into this podcast microphone, but I mean, it's not like I have that conversation a ton, but I do believe it. Like, I think
you should tell everyone that.
Yeah. You're hiring me for my judgment because I'm a comedian, and I also have the technical ability and the lack of social life to be able to sit at a computer for 14 hours in a row and edit this thing. And I've taught myself editing thanks to tutorials. I mean, it's not like it's all been just guessing, but where was I going with this? Oh, but like I would consider success financially to be just sustainability. Yeah. You know, and for me, that's like $3,000 a month, which is nothing pretty much. Of course, I'd like to make more money than that and have a few $100,000 in my bank account or what. Is that what you do with money? You just put it all in one bank account, or, you know, some investments or whatever, and have some financial security in a sense that I'm not going to die, you know, choking on a bottle cap in an orchard somewhere that I'm not supposed to be when I'm in my 70s. I assume that's how it's all going to go down. I'll be a transient.
This is a fantastic vision of your future. I want to know why you're in an orchard. I want to know what kind of bottle we're talking about. Well, like why you. There's a lot there. There's an entire Chekhov's play in that. Like
I said, I have great taste.
Yeah.
People don't. If you have good taste, you go to an orchard.
So it would be an organic orchard. It would be like heirloom,
some kind of heirloom pears. Yeah, maybe even an heirloom tomato farm down the way, just down at the heirloom district. Yeah. But those trappings of success, like the material output that you get with the fancy cars and the connections and the status and the snobbery that starts to emerge from all those things coming together. Your peer group becomes just a bunch of rich bloodsuckers. Not to say that you can't control that or choose that, but like it's not an accident that in Hollywood the phrase "down to earth" is like a compliment. Oh, he's not supposed to be real, but he's actually kind of decent. He looked the waiter in the eye. It's amazing. You never believe it. Yeah.
I think success to me would just be feeling like I actually had a career that netted some money. Like not that money needs to be the scorekeeper, but just like, yes, people will actually employ me to do this job professionally.
Yes.
And not just I will continue to write scripts and save them on my laptop and have them go nowhere.
Right.
Forever. Because that's starting to feel a little insane after 10 years.
When your hard drive fills up with scripts. Like,
my Dropbox is full and I can't afford to upgrade it.
Dropbox. I hate Dropbox. They're so annoying with the way you can't delete shared. I don't know. I have an issue with Dropbox. Not to say that I'm trying to judge your participation in the Dropbox industry. I'm a Google. Why does it sound like that's a thing people line up around? It's a little uncouth to talk about money and this kind of stuff for creative people. Like I don't like to think about money and all that, but you need two things. Like, you need approval of someone with money or an audience enough to generate money via advertising or direct support. But like you need attention. Like you need to have enough people. I don't want to be Herman Melville, right? Didn't he get successful only after he was long gone or something like that?
I have no idea, but probably.
I suddenly waded into trying to sound intelligent. I waded into literary waters. I'm so ignorant. I shouldn't.
Which is appropriate with Melville to
wade into waters. Yeah. I suddenly crawled into a whale.
The white whale of success is out there.
Yes, exactly. Boy, I hope I don't get what I got coming to me. The deserved murder of me and my crewmates by the whale, who had every right to knock that boat down.
He did. I am definitely pro whale.
I'm on team whale, right? Resist.
That whale was just like trying to have a nice day.
Yeah, you're the biggest ass whale in the southern Pacific Ocean or whatever it is, like the greatest expanses of water known to humanity throughout the universe. And some assholes are coming by murdering your buddies with boats and spears. Get the hell out of here. Now those guys had to survive that's the part of the story a lot of people don't know about. They know the whale bit, but not the part where the dudes had to like live in lifeboats and eat each other for like 10 weeks or something.
Yeah, no, I never actually read it.
I didn't
just
read it
am
either.
Fiercely team whale.
Same here.
In all circumstances, there's no circumstances that I'm not team whale.
Same, exactly. I'm not trying to justify any of it, but the story is very dramatic in terms of human survival too. Like that thing where you're like, oh, I'm sunburned. Like that's what I always worry about being in a lifeboat is the sunburn, not eating my friends' brains. So. Wow, how do you transition from that thought?
Pie? Didn't you want to talk about pie?
Pie, I did mention, yeah. So, okay, we're over an hour. Are you good to talk a little more? Feeling okay?
Yeah, if you want. If you want to wrap it up, it's fine. But I'm
I'm not.
happy.
No, I'm good. I think we can go another 20, 30 minutes or so.
Sure.
If you let me, I'll talk for 4 hours. It'll be dark outside and we'll be like, Hank, give it up, buddy. All right, let go of the social interaction. Get back to being an isolated weirdo. Okay. Your pies that you is this an annual event?
It has become an annual event. Yeah, it's become a Thanksgiving event.
Oh, it's on Thanksgiving. Okay, for some reason I was thinking it's in the springtime. But you just produce a lot of pie and then give them away to people who want them.
Yeah, I think I can't remember when I started it 3 or 4 years ago when I was much less visible on Twitter. Because like I grew up in a really big family and pie was a very big thing and Thanksgiving was a very big thing. And like then moving down here where I have no family and Thanksgiving is me and my husband and maybe a couple of friends who also have no family, like it was a little depressing. And I like baking. So it became a thing of just like, all right, 5 of you, if you want a pie, if you're in LA, let me know what you want and I'll make it just because I like it. And then it became a whole thing.
Wait, you take orders? Like I could say I want a cherry pie with
yeah, no, I'll with the only exception, my husband's allergic to nuts, so I won't make anything with nuts. And I won't make you like a bacon pie.
Yeah.
Meat. But like, yeah, within the realm of normal pies that are not pecan, I will make any, like last year, I think I made 22 pies last year.
Wow.
And like I made a key lime, I made a banoffee, I made like pies I have never, a shoe fly. Like a lot of times people will ask me to make something I've never made before. And I'm like, all right, this is kind of on you if it sucks. Cause like
yeah,
pumpkin and sweet potato and apple and stuff like that I can handle. But this pie is made out of vinegar and molasses or I don't know if I can make it taste good.
Did you make a pie with vinegar?
I think the shoe fly pie has some vinegar in it. It's basically like molasses and vinegar. And then you put like a crumb topping on it. And it's extremely ugly and weird, but they liked it.
Yeah, I'd be open to trying it. I shouldn't just summarily dismiss it, but it doesn't sound very appealing.
Yeah. So yeah.
What's your crust? Do you do crust from scratch?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that all? Any self-respecting pie maker is not gonna use a store-bought crust.
Yeah, my mother would drive down from Sonoma County and murder me if I used a store-bought crust. But yeah, well, like because I knew I was gonna try to do at least 20 this year because I just like making it hard on myself. Starting in very early November, I just every day would mix up like 4 pie crusts and throw them in the freezer.
Yeah.
So that then when I got to like the week around Thanksgiving that I was actually giving all these away, it was just a question of take that out of the freezer and fill it and bake it. And, as opposed to like do the whole process 8 times a day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you have the crusts are all staged ahead of time kind of. What's the secret to pie? So I've had a little experience with baking. I used to bake my ambition. I used to make like pizzas and bread and stuff, but I want to make bread bowls. That was like my goal was to be able to make chili and also bake the bowl. And it took me a while to finally get the bread to stay in a spherical shape enough to be a bowl because I could make a bread disc. That's not that hard. Yeah. And finally I was able to make a pretty reliable and pretty good, damn good bread bowls.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
I've never tried that.
Yeah, it's good. So do you have like a ancient family recipe?
No, I mean, pie, people are really afraid of pie crust for some reason. And it's the easiest freaking recipe in the entire world. Right. Like the only thing you can do wrong is add too much or too little water. And it's like, as long as you're paying attention and it doesn't get super sticky and it doesn't crumble apart, you're fine. Like, I don't know. My mom is one of those people that bakes by instinct as opposed to recipe. So like if I ever call her to get a recipe, she'll be like, put some celery in it. And it's like, what does that mean? Just some.
Yeah.
And
it's less than a lot.
you learn when you have somebody like that, you learn to bake through textures and through repetition.
Sure.
And so I don't think there's a secret. It's not hard. Just use good ingredients. That's the only secret. Use good butter.
Good butter.
Flour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So confidence is basically the secret. Just
yeah,
have some faith
and
it'll
just
work.
chilling out. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Pies are easy.
Do you do the interwoven pies?
Yeah, I can do lattices.
Lattices?
I started messing around a lot with decorative crusts and stuff the last couple of years. I'm not great at that stuff.
Yeah.
But it will taste good. I guarantee that.
Well, that's all that really matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, for me, I would say my ideal pie. I've been eating I do keto, and I actually remember sending you a message all about keto once for some. I don't know why I thought I should do that. That was such as soon as I was done, I was like, why did I just bother this poor person? I eat a lot of animal products, and it's something that I'm not proud of. It's been the best thing for my health, but you can also do no animal keto as well. I'm not trying to talk you into it at all, but this year I've eaten quite a bit of carbs, because I've stressed and just kind of life stuff, laid off, work crap, all kinds of weird shit. It's just such a strange year all around. Getting through this year. So I've why am I rambling about this? Where was I going with it? Something
pie?
To do with pie. Yes. It's gone. Damn.
I think you started by saying your ideal pie.
Oh, yes. Oh, right. Got it. Okay. Man, you're good. You are so good at this. I would go blueberry, warm. I like a classic blueberry. I could do a cobbler, of course. I mean, it's all kind of the same as far as I'm concerned. With ice cream, with vanilla ice cream. I like just a very simple, sweet blueberry, not overwhelmed by sugar, but definitely a good sugary bit. And oh man, ooh.
Yeah, I think simple pies are better. People are always putting all sorts of crap in them to make them taste like other things, and it's just like, nah, let the fruit shine. Let a blueberry pie taste like blueberry, and that's it.
Yeah, I used to make these not pie. This is cornbread from scratch, and I would puree, make a blueberry reduction with sugar and butter, and then I would thread it through the cornbread before I baked it. So it'd be like a beautiful, very good. It works. Blueberry puree or blueberry reduction incorporates beautifully into cornbread. So
I'm gonna have to try that. Yeah, I love cornbread. That borders on sexual. That's just tremendous.
Yes, it's what killed my wife. No, I'm joking around. This made no sense. It's like killed.
Don't do that. I am the queen of stumbling accidentally into incredibly awkward situations and saying exactly the wrong thing. Well, so
I'm trying to make a career out of exactly that. So
my God.
Thanks for participating.
That was real terror you saw on my face for a second there.
It shouldn't. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not. That's actually kind of a hack premise or joke anyway. All right. So, okay. Pies are nice. Pies make us feel good. What doesn't is the news and life.
Everything else?
Everything else. And the volume of it, the quantity is so overwhelming. And for me, it's a privilege to, I'm privileged to be able to walk away from it, to be able to say, you know what, I got to turn this off for a little while. I can't handle it. It's not good for my mental health. And that's literally true for sometimes where I have to protect my brain because I've gone down dark, very, very, very dark hallways with this head of mine. And I'm sure other folks might relate to that. So I do need to actually protect my health by avoiding this stuff and because of the stress it triggers. And that's an enormous privilege in itself. But setting that aside, what is your daily routine like as far as how you ingest this nightmare? It's like this fire hoses blasting our windows. And some of us, myself, you might relate, will just, as soon as I wake up, I just like open the window and just stick my head right into the rush of water and be like, get me. It's sort of like I'm not even awake yet.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
Yeah, what the fuck?
It's not, my routine is not, I would not recommend it.
Tell me about it.
It's not good for anybody.
What's it like?
I pretty much wake up and, I have recently gotten addicted to a couple of internet games that I open first.
Okay.
So I get 10 minutes of waking up and like doing interior design on a room.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then I do that. And sometimes I will even get to the crossword before I open it. But yeah, because all of my friends are online, and that's who I talk to all day long. Like I can't avoid Twitter. But pretty much I do I try to filter my Twitter so that I don't follow assholes and that I like the perspectives of the people that I follow. So I try to digest news through them as opposed to through directly this. I mean, I'll go and read articles if somebody like posts something, whatever. But like, what I don't do is go to MSNBC or any, reputable newspaper and just read everything, because then I will kill myself. But with your friends who can be funny, or you can feel empathetic towards their anger, when you have a human connection as your starting point to go into a story, that helps blunt it a little bit, because then I'm thinking about my friend rather than that I want someone to assassinate someone for me.
Right.
But yeah, it's not healthy, and it's all day and it's constant. Once in a very great while, I'll watch Rachel Maddow, usually when I think she's going to lose her shit over something, because that's just funny. And otherwise that's kind of it. I have the social media digest of news. Yeah. And it's not good. It's not healthy at all. Yeah. It's just my life now. It's not healthy.
Right. Yeah. I catch myself scrolling, and I'll even, when I think I'm doing a good job managing, because I think I need to pull back from screens in general. I think we're all kind of, I was saying earlier, like we weren't kids, you and I, but like, children growing up with screens, we weren't children during everything is digitized and saved forever, but having babies and toddlers with screens in their faces all their entire life. And I can feel the compulsiveness of it. Yeah. I can feel the compulsion to like, I've got 10 seconds. I can look at my phone for a second here. Or when I'm on Twitter, I will hit that top, and I know I'm being manipulated. I know that they have highly paid psychologists and professional marketers, people who are professional bullshit manipulators that are using science rigorously to get us to scroll again, fear of missing out. They want you to feel addictive, because it's like randomization too. Like, you don't know if it's going to be good news, bad news, or just some kind of provocative news, which usually is something like that. Rarely. Well,
these days your money's on bad news.
Yeah, yeah. It's the good news would be like, like Steve
Bannon getting arrested,
right? Like that, or
news.
Or the heart attack.
It's really
lottery.
Grim shit.
Yeah, the heart attack fairy finally came through for everybody. Yeah. There's not a lot of good news at all. And then I find myself catching like the little kittens and puppies and cute animal videos, and I will definitely use those for therapeutic doses. I will be like, okay, I need to stare at these dogs having a, I don't know. I was just about to start describing dog videos to you like we're a couple. So there's this video, and it was these dogs are so cute.
Listen, I'm fine with cheating, but not sharing dog videos. That is exclusively for my husband.
Yeah.
We had vows.
Not even dog videos, dog memories of dog videos. Yeah. Well, human memories of dog videos.
Video you saw once.
Yeah. Can I tell you about this video? Oh God, I'm lonely. So the so I'm intentionally trying to like make, okay, no phone now. I'm turning it off so that I can focus on watching The Boys or something on or whatever. Like,
so I can watch a different.
So I can watch a different screen, but at least now I'm not staring at two, and neither is getting my full attention. But the news diet, man, it's just like waking up and just, okay, I'm just going to swallow a little glass to get the day started.
I think it's difficult because, I mean, part of our responsibility, I don't know if you consider yourself progressive, but like part of our responsibility just as citizens right now, and part of our responsibility as white people too, is to not be complacent and not just skate by not paying attention to things because we can, and it won't really affect us. But yeah, at a certain point it does become self-flagellation. And I don't know how to get out of it. But I feel that compulsion you're talking about, like it that thing where you close Twitter and then 5 seconds later you open Twitter again.
Yes. Or if you're a tab.
Nothing new is happening.
Yeah, I use tabs a lot. I'm always opening new tabs, and I will. By the end of the day, I'll have about 100, tabs spread around 10 or so different windows. Whatever. It's this giant Chrome nightmare. But I would like check Twitter on one tab, nothing, and then I'll go check it on another one, as if that's going to be different. And I am embarrassed at how much I want that little notifications thing. You're probably at a level where it's always got an indicator on it.
Yeah.
The thing, I'm not. I'm not there. I will get it though, and I will be like, ugh, and I could feel, this self-awareness. I'll just be like, oh, there's that little dopamine rush, or whatever it is that they designed it, that I am willfully, looking for and trying to get. And then of course I also hate that too, so I'm resistant as well. I'm just kind of conscious of it. Not sure what the question or comment there is, but.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like, I wish I could say like, here's a strategy for defeating this, but no, I am firmly in that monster's belly. And I am digested into molecules by at this point. Like, I don't see myself getting out.
Yes. Oh man, reborn every day in the monster's belly for yet another turn through the intestines, like the world's worst water park. Wow. Have you had to take any like extended breaks, or just to sort of like really more dramatic pull? Like,
I've tried a few times, but I fail which is how you know it's an addiction. The thing is like, you literally can't stop. Because it is, especially now when it is my main form of social interaction with anybody. Yeah. It becomes really difficult to take a break. Like, yeah, no. I am the worst person to talk about it. It's so hard because it's tied into my career. Like, I have to keep posting to stay relevant on, radars of execs and people like that follow me. It's important to my social life. It's the dopamine hit too. So, and I have a variety of internet crushes. Got to keep up on those.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Any internet crushes you're willing to speak about publicly?
Oh God, no.
Oh, okay. Kind of like those kind. All right. Not just like Jared Leto. He's kind of got.
No, I don't tend to. I mean, like, who in their right mind does not have a crush on Chris Evans? But like,
of course,
I tend to Twitter crush on people that I actually interact with.
I got you.
And that's way worse because those are real people.
I understand. Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I think that's totally healthy for you to. Like, wow, Charlize Theron, she's my Twitter crush. That's in her, I don't know if she's on Twitter or not, but, there was a thought I was gonna say like for me too, I feel like I'm doing this podcast. I talk politics. I do like a solo show where I yell and scream about socialism and politics and from my perspective. And I definitely would say the word progressive would apply to the, among the words that fit with me. I don't know if I'd use the word liberal anymore. I probably definitely am further, if we're going to make it overly simplistic, I'm way left of what liberal means these days. But I mean, it's definitely on that spectrum. I'm certainly would definitely go stand in line with the liberals if there was a protest or something like that, depending on what, obviously, it must be so weird. I was just thinking about this. This is a sudden turn based on what I just said. Do you have any Trump supporters in your family?
Not in my family. My husband's parents are, but no, my family are. With the exception of me, my family were all diehard Bernie supporters. Okay. Like,
right on.
Blood on the floor, Bernie supporters.
Well done. I'm with them. I'd like to apply for membership. But so your husband, I mean, you must. I assume it bothers him. You've had some exposure to. I have Trump supporters in my family. We don't talk politics. Doesn't come up. Let's just not make it personal. But how do I can't believe that there are people who support Trump at all. Even just from the start. But that if you're standing in line, I don't expect anybody who supports Trump to be also working with my brain. Like, they know what they know. They're confident. They trust the media they consume. They have a worldview that is informed by their experience, by their upbringing, by the propaganda that they believed when they were kids, as we were all trained to worship the flag and everything else. That
sure.
The Pledge of Allegiance is such a ridiculous thing to do to kids, but it's so weird. It's brainwashing. But anyway, so okay, you're a Trump supporter. You're a conservative. You kind of align ideologically with the news. You like the way that the people on TV, you find something about their confidence reassuring. But so you're going to go stand in line to vote for this guy, and a Nazi is going to stand in line right behind you or in front of you, and you're in line with a Nazi. You're in line with white power, white supremacy.
Well, Richard Spencer's voting for Biden, so we're going to be in line with a Nazi too.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I guess maybe that makes my argument crumble. But like, when the KKK and the Nazis and the skinheads and the white supremacists stuff swell in America, and the newer versions of them, the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Kids, these sad, broken men groups, I would find that so incredibly unnerving to be in line with people, even if I was just waiting to buy a smoothie or a snow cone. And one thing, kind of a realization I had, and I'm just curious to get your thoughts, is like, well, it's actually not to say that it's that straightforward. They don't sit there and then Hitler stands in line behind them, and they might not realize that it's that the person they're supporting is the most powerful, recently most powerful catapulter of Nazi propaganda and of fascism and just totalitarianism and right-wing conservatism, which is what, like, there's historical patterns that repeat that are trending towards that, and we're getting the modern version of it, and it's horrifying. And so maybe they don't have that political awareness of it, but it's not so much that they're just ignorant, it's that they agree. It's that they're actually kind of on the same page as, oh yeah, well, the TV tells me that I should be scared of brown people. The TV tells me that like recently this kid that murdered 2 people in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Tucker Carlson's on saying, it's basically defending the murder, saying like, and if you trust your media, well, you're pulled in that direction. And they kind of have been shaping the conservative audience into being good Americans, aka good Germans. And so that's what's so kind of haunting and horrifying for me to realize. It's not that a lot of these folks would stand up there and do Nazi symbols and wear Nazi symbology, but that ultimately, though, they're working towards the same goals, or sort of towards similar goals at least. Maybe not as far as the violence would want, the violent people would want to take it, but that's horrifying to me. Yeah,
I think it's difficult, especially because you, like me, are addicted to social media, and we get the extreme end of everything. I know with my husband's parents that they certainly don't, they're in their late 70s, so they ain't woke. But like, they certainly don't think they're Nazis, nor want to be Nazis, nor agree outwardly with white supremacy or anything like that. For them, they've always voted Republican. Mm-hmm. So they're going to keep voting Republican. Like, the personality of the person doesn't matter so much. I mean, and you can point out that, like, the Republican Party, as you thought it was in the 80s, doesn't exist anymore. This is not about small business conservatism or anything like that. Like, but they're not absorbing any of the modern media. They don't watch the news. They're not on social media. So they're not getting any of it. Right. So they're just operating off of an operating system that's been outdated for 35 years. But I don't know. I think the problem with everything starts with our educational system and how we are teaching children that critical thinking is not the key to intelligence. Instead, we're teaching them that knowing the answers and that listening to authority and doing what your teacher tells you. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who certainly has his faults, always says that critical thinking is the armor you get against the charlatans of the world, because it's what enables you to question ideology and question people making these claims. And if you don't ever develop that skill, you're going to believe whatever someone who looks like an authority tells you.
Right.
And I think that's largely why we've, but yeah, I mean, certainly the unveiling of the amount of white supremacy has been a shock to me as a dumb white person. Mm-hmm. The Tucker Carlson, I can't talk.
It's okay.
Tucker Carlson, that's his name now. Like,
Tuckelson.
Openly defending someone who murdered 2 peaceful protesters the other night with a gun that he had to have illegally because he's 17 and you can't own that gun.
After getting material support from the police.
And at the same time, they're pushing the argument that the man who was killed that sparked the protest in Kenosha might have had a knife in his car. Well, my husband carries a knife with him all the time,
Me too. On my keychain.
Yeah. Like, it's always the same fucking argument for why black people deserve to die and why white people don't deserve to go to jail. Like, it's
Yeah,
I don't know. The reckoning with cynicism I have had over the last few months has been pretty full of despair for me. It's been overwhelming.
Reckoning with cynicism. I'm just typing that. That might be the name of the episode here. That's beautiful.
It'll be a nice, cheerful episode.
Yeah, it will be. This is plenty of cheer. I don't do video with this podcast, but there's lots of smiling happening and positive vibes. I like to just announce that.
As we talk about the end of the world.
There are positive vibes right now. Yeah, reckoning with cynicism. It's hard to see. I mean, the hypocrisy of those positions where, like you say, I think a downstream effect of having a healthy base for critical thinking is that you care about being consistent. You have some integrity in the way you apply your principles. I don't shoot for perfection. I think that perfection policing thing is just a waste. It's a way to waste time. It's a way to confuse things. Expecting 100% perfection is simply just unrealistic in pretty much any kind of human system. But you should try. You should strive to be persuadable. It should be a goal that you can be talked into something. Like, I'm proud of my, I believe I can defend what I say and what I think. But I'm also very, very open to admitting that I was wrong about something, taking in new information and being persuaded into a different belief. Right.
Yeah. I think
those
that's often where we,
final thing, those features are aggressively kept at bay on the right, especially, and probably in some corners on the left too. But
yeah, I was going to say, I think that's our big problem on the left is that everybody is so determined that their specific version of progressivism is the one, and that anyone varying from that in any way is an enemy. Like,
right.
That's killing us. That is preventing us from ever uniting. And, you look at the ugliness that went on in the primary just between the progressive sides.
Yeah.
And it's like, my God, guys, we're all 20 degrees to the left of Joe Biden. Like, can we stop trying to kill each other? That seems useless.
Yes.
And it ties into that idea of like this, you must agree with me 100% of the time, or I think you are trying to do evil.
Mm-hmm.
And as an artist, I don't know how to reckon with that. Like, you see that pervading the art world, and it's really concerning. And yeah, I mean, that is an issue that exists on both sides and is scary as hell. Yeah. I don't know how to deal with it yet.
Well, the herding cats metaphor for the Democratic Party is, or at least the left side of the political spheres in America, is very apt. That's an old metaphor that's been used for decades, and it's gotten worse because of the internet and with the digital era that we're currently in, and it changes so quickly too. All those ways that, like, it's healthy. I think it's good to have a variety of viewpoints. It's good to have critical thinkers who have different perspective. It's good to have internal debates and arguments. And in a utopian society, that's pretty much all politics would be like, we just have differences of opinion, but we're all, kind and caring and respectful. But jumping to that right now, not to say that people who engage in this are trying to be utopian or something like that, but like the energy expended on that sort of stuff is so wasted because it's doing nothing but creating, like counterproductive tensions that don't serve any purpose whatsoever, other than to exhaust yourself. Unlike the right, which they can line up behind a bumper sticker. Like they're like there's been research and stuff about comfort with authority and comfort with hierarchy, and like the different types of personality builds that are either. I'm definitely of the kind that would be very discomfort. I have no comfort with authority. I hate having a boss. I hate having anybody tell me what to do. Like, I don't see a guy who claims to know everything and think like, oh, good, finally someone can stand there and then I can just vicariously attach my identity to that person, and now I can just go off and scream and yell, and I'll just be another sacrificial foot soldier to this person's ambitions. I'll go, okay, what's their fucking deal? Why are they what part of their thing is bullshit? Even though I agree with it, but there's got to be some bullshit there because they want power. I'm suspicious of people who want power and who are seeking it. So I hold them to higher standards, to very high standards. I'm not sure what I'm rambling about, but I love that instinct, but it's being applied in a world where people are just looking for, I think, immediate stress relief because they're so under so much pressure, and the world is very destabilizing and confusing. Right now.
Especially now. Yeah.
Especially now. Yeah. If I may, unless you have something you'd like to say,
Nope.
This is basically my solo podcast. So like, I think that what America is going through is the story we were all taught was bullshit. We were taught this propaganda of America being a great country that had a couple of little tiny flaws, but don't you worry. Look at those heads carved into the mountain. Look at these beautiful sculptures we've got. And I'm talking about the founding fathers, not even the Confederate propaganda that came out after Civil War. That's an absolutely enormously weird and strange and completely almost predictable thing that a nation built on white supremacy would do. Like it's like folded into the genetics of America is a hierarchical race-based caste system that is intended to maintain power in as few hands as they can. And the story of the history of progress is the history of conservatives losing power, basically. And that over time, so what's happening now because of the internet and because of the ferocity of these arguing and that the history and some of the truths, and we can't necessarily say we will have a full grasp on the history. Anybody who's ever played the telephone game knows exactly what I'm talking about. But that we're trying to tell a new story. We're trying to tell a story. We need to somehow, and this takes leadership. I doubt that this kind of thing emerges purely organically, that we need to reorient the American identity from what it was, which is that we're perfect and wonderful, and we're called the perfect union right off the bat. The gaslighting was strong, and that I think that's partially why if hopefully this only remains an emotional civil war kind of thing right now, because I think we're very much headed towards violence in the next several months with the election. I'm scared of that, and I'd be very shocked if there's no more incidences like what we saw this last week with this shooting in Kenosha. But we need to. The story is gone. Like the story is crumbling, and the story is being challenged. And so those people like who go and defend Confederate statues, they're defending their story because they've attached their identity to the American narrative, almost in a religious. With a religious fervor, because it was ingrained in them with the Pledge of Allegiance and with all the way that history is taught to children in this country. And I don't know what I'm really trying to say. I'm not even really, but please jump in if you think of anything at all.
Okay. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you're not interrupting. But like it kind of summarizes to the following concept that I am about to say, which is simplistic. But like I speak pretty negatively about America. I'm very judgmental about all the pain that this country causes to a lot of its own people, as well as people outside the country, and the amount of potential, that human potential and human worth, that is lost to the capitalistic structure and the white supremacist, racist, patriarchal, sexist system that was written into the code from the very, very beginning. Our deepest operating system was a vast system of oppression and exploitation. But I love the people. Like, what is a country? Is a country the story, or is a country the people? And I really, this comes out of this empathy reactor I have, that it pains me so much to see so many people stressed and hurt. Not just on my own life, but because in my family we've had like generational trauma, that I'm not going to get into details now, and I know that that's not unique, right? So many families have these fucked up, abusive situations that if it just trickled through the generations, causing chaos, or at least forcing you to have to overcome much more than you should, any one animal should, given its limited and precious time on a planet in a crazy massive universe that has whatever. That's a bigger thing. But I don't care. I mean, I care about the story. What's the next story? We need to the story of America has to become, we looked after each other, we care about each other, and we mean it. That is to say, we stop working so fucking much, and we start paying for people's health care and properly assessing where value comes from, which means that I don't even think of it as taxing billionaires. It's reclaiming stolen wealth. That's not their money. That the money is not theirs. It's straight up stolen. Like they didn't work for it. It's not theirs. That's why it's not even taxing to reclaim it. It's actually belongs to someone else. And it should be spent on making the society in which they can have 20 yachts a little bit better and a lot better. And actually, I believe in making the world better on purpose, instead of just like maintaining the grift as much as they can, and placating the progressives just enough so that they can keep their power centers going. Anyway, deep breath. You talk.
Yeah. Well, I think I broadly agree with what you're saying. I think all expansions of the social contract are about an expansion of empathy. They are always about recognizing that we are not treating everyone equally and including a few more people, even nominally, in it. That's what ending slavery was. That's what, ending Jim Crow was. That's what the civil rights was, gay marriage and, all of that stuff. It is always like saying, maybe my inner circle that's not the other can be a little bit bigger. Like maybe I can let a few more people in. And I think part of the reason why everything seems so insane right now is that the internet exploded the size of our circle to where we're not just dealing with, if you lived in a city, 1 million people that we could run into and maybe be friends with or maybe find foreign to ourselves. We're dealing with billions of people who all think very significantly different. And it made it almost instantly impossible to deny that somebody living in Indonesia or something like that is any less of a person than you are, which is much easier to do when you can't see their posts on Twitter. But it also, big changes in empathy will meet with big resistance.
Yeah.
It's the most carefully guarded insecurities that are the hardest to break through. So, I mean, I think that's why this is so divisive, is we are asking for an expansion of empathy on everything. There used to be kind of one movement at a time. Like right now, the civil rights thing is focused on getting Black people the right to vote and live safely and be able to live where they want to live and whatever. And like right now, the gay movement is trying to not have police murder them when they go out to clubs. Like, and now we're like, no, we need trans people to have rights. We need Black people to have rights. We need, immigrants to have rights. We want it all. And we should want it all. Like we should all be demanding this, but to people that are in a very small bubble of who is them and who is the other, that's terrifying. We're suddenly ripping the entire world open for them. And I'm not shocked that it's being met with the resistance it is.
Right.
I hope the arc of the universe bends towards justice. I think that's still a premise and not a proven scientific statement.
I agree. Things get better slowly, but not on accident. They get better because some people get pissed off enough to stand up and do something and push and be the outliers. And the outliers become normal over time eventually, like the right for women's suffrage to vote, like that.
Yeah. And that was a racist exclusionary movement.
Yeah,
but it got some people the right to vote. Right
And pulled the those resistances to it. And it's just funny to me that there's always it's like the wrong side of history. What you were saying while you were talking, I was thinking about the institutional power of the conservative movement in this country. They're the brake on change, the ones that like want to hold back and not change. That's like the most generous, innocent way of describing it. I mean, they're trying to maintain this closed off circle of power that they don't want to let anybody in. If anything, they'd like to make it smaller. Although they'll let in tokens and they'll let, they'll be like, well, look at this one story. This guy used to be in prison and now he's made a successful car company, or whatever. Like have some story that they use to try to say like, well, gee, if only you had done, you could overcome all this trauma too. So they're very, very much limiting the amount of people who are allowed to reach any kind of potential in that sense. But the way that the world, I'm vamping because I lost train of my thought there. I do this. This is how I work. I just go off on some tangent. That they're going to. The wrong side of history is in charge. Yeah. Like, and the culture and the system was written to overweight voters in rural areas. Not that rural areas have to be conservative per se. I mean, you could easily. I actually kind of want to become a rural voter myself. I'm sort of getting fed up with city life. I'd like to get out of LA, to be honest. I don't have to say, to be honest, that's a controversial statement.
How dare you.
I'm tired. I'm done with fucking cities. Chicago and LA, I've had enough. I'd like to live out.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat there.
I just want to do woodworking. Honestly, I want to do woodworking and podcasting and make woodworking videos. That's what I'm doing lately. So, and I'd like to do it somewhere near a Kroger. The way that their power is so built in, like a voter in, I don't know the exact numbers, but like a voter in Wyoming has like 68 times more influence over this world than a California voter because of the way the Senate's constructed.
Yeah.
And these kind of massive, almost unbreakable institutions like the Supreme Court and the Senate, and probably to a lesser degree the House, but the presidency itself and the Electoral College especially, makes this bending almost impossible. This bending that you mentioned of just that we want the arc of history, but
it's always almost impossible.
Yeah, agreed.
That's not new,
right?
After 300 years, 250 years of slavery, it was almost impossible to eliminate it. After thousands of years of women not being allowed any institutional power, it was almost impossible to allow even a few of them, even the white ones, to vote. Like, it's always almost impossible. This is not new. It just feels bigger, I think, because we're seeing it in a more extreme version, because the internet has added a dimension we've never had.
Yeah, that's true. The most optimistic hope I have for the Trump administration is that we reject this ideology, and that thanks to archives, digital archives, the internet, and like the same thing that it would suck to happen to a 12-year-old who's growing up and has their world, everything they ever do recorded forever. I want to happen to Trump. So it's almost a good thing that history will always have these resources to look back upon and see and say, look, the entire world, every single bad trait about humanity got all wrapped up in one person and became like this. There's a term for this. I can't think of it. It's a literary term where like a monster forms that embodies all the worst qualities. I don't know. I think I remember seeing it around the time when all those clowns were like being spotted in neighborhoods about 2 or 3 years ago.
I don't
recall the clown.
I remember that,
but
okay. I don't know what term.
Yeah, it's like
a chimera.
Might be chimera. I don't think that's it. It could be that. But no, there's someone used a word and I was like, oh, that's such a great. But I hope that Trump serves as a pivotal moment. This era will be will be looked back upon to say that's when they made the turn. Because if a global community, and if America especially, experiences what's happening right now, and the way it's exposed to all the problems with institutional electoral power, but also institutional economic power, that is to say capitalism, if we're experiencing this and we don't make a pretty sharp turn, more than a bend, or at least one of our biggest bends, we are going to all die because of global warming. Like if you can't take what's happening now and turn, then I don't like to use words like deserve, and I'm not about to say that either. I hate it when people say, well, they deserve the people that they voted for. That's who they vote for. You deserve. It's like, no, they're influenced by much greater forces and historical and systemic and social forces. I don't think anybody deserves to die because they don't have insulin, or anybody deserves to have their life this much. I don't even think conservative folks deserve to live in fear of people who have different skin color than they do. Nobody deserves to feel as negative as the default becomes under this kind of chaos. And so I guess that's my hope, is that the Trump is a lesson that will eventually be looked at as a lesson, aside from all the horrid pain and nightmare that's happening, to all the untold stories. And those little kids in cages in Texas, they're not telling stories. None of them are on podcasts. None of them are writing stuff. You know what I mean? There's so many victims of this thing too, that not just a lesson for us white people.
It's so odd to me. This is a terrible thing to admit as a storyteller, but like, I have been thinking about the concept of stories and how important humans make stories. But like, we don't talk about, lions, the story of lions throughout history. We think of it as a story because we like to think of narratives and things bigger than ourselves. And, and it ties into theism and this idea that there's someone watching this entire thing like it's a production, all of human history and all of human existence. But I don't know if it is a story anymore. I mean, there's an evolution to it, but like, we're used to narratives that have an end and have a meaning and have a, an ultimate point they reach. And I don't know if existence actually does. Like, I don't know if humanity is a narrative. There will be things that happen, but I don't know if it's serving a grander thematic existence. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I agree.
Maybe we will dissolve into total chaos, or maybe climate change will knock off enough people and we'll be down to a few million and we'll basically have to restart civilization in anything that's not covered in water. But like, maybe not. And it doesn't really serve a greater theme either way. A meteor could come tomorrow and end human existence on the planet, and that would not be a very good narrative. It would just stop.
Yeah. Wow, movie's over? What, the meteor just killed all of them? I just started to like those people.
We would hate that movie.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's getting harder for me to believe that there is a knowable arc to our existence. Our species' existence.
Yeah. Well, there's a tellable arc. And that,
you can tell the past.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know if the future is necessarily predictive, because there's just so many chaotic outside features that can interfere.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, like, storytelling is probably deeper ingrained. It gets cheesy. I start sounding like a real cheese ball real quick. If I were successful, I'd definitely be one of those guys that's like, I tell stories. I like just sit back and let Uncle Hanky tell you a story there. What the fuck?
Well, stories are a way of making sense of the universe.
Well, yes, go ahead.
But that you need those because the broader universe doesn't make sense. Because it isn't a story, you need to break it down into seeable chunks where you can see a beginning, middle, and end and a meaning.
A pie of reality, if you will.
A pie of reality.
A captured chunk of, and something that brings pleasure, not like salt and vinegar and molasses or whatever that was.
Yeah.
But I believe, evolutionarily speaking, that stories go far deeper than we really realize. Like, we need to tell, like, for survival. If you and I are part of a tribe and I'm away for a little while, I come back, I tell you a story. You tell me a story. What did you do? You tell me a story.
But most of the time we're bored by each other's stories. I don't know. Monkeys don't tell stories. Like, it's weird. Like, and I say this as a storyteller, but like,
yeah, but the ritual nature of like uniting behind a similar story is I think vital to a tribe looking out for each other. And the way that a group identity emerges from everybody getting to participate in that creation of that story, that ongoing being present with each other, with the thing, but also with this belief that the group that you're involved with are all kind of copacetic with each other. Not to say that unique or completely uniform. I'm not saying that at all. But I think, and that's why I think that the American character can survive that difference of some kind. But I think because of social media, media concentration in general, that divergence is becoming wider and wider and wider. And that's one of the reasons why there's escalating tension between people who don't see eye to eye on all these things. How we can have our folks who are standing in line to vote with the same people the Nazis are excited to vote for, and we can just be aghast at that. And you know what I mean? I'm not sure if I'm making any sense there.
It's so big. Like, the more I look at it, the more fragmented it feels to me. Like, because I mean, yes, we do need stories and we do need these ideologies and stuff to bond us, but that's also where supremacism starts. Mm-hmm. Like, the trick that it seems that the human mind cannot get over is, here are me and my friends who all agree on this sort of thing. But that doesn't mean that people that don't get it and don't disagree with us are lesser creatures. Like, that seems to be where we have a tremendous amount of difficulty evolving, is this idea that there can be different perspectives and we don't have the only right answer. On the other hand, then there are ideologies that are so hateful and they want to destroy us that you have to do something about it. So it's just like there's no overall solution. It's so subtle and complicated that I can't even conceive of the size of it anymore.
I agree. Yeah. And for me, it's simplicity for me, as far as like the kind of story I'm talking about. I'm overusing that word, but a uniting narrative of we look after each other, to me, is all you really need. If you can derive anything, everything can derive from I care about you. Your pain is an emergency to me, and my pain will be an emergency to you. And if everybody had an approach similar or sourced from that kind of thinking, we're going to work together to solve problems and to work on stuff, as opposed to the story of I'm telling you who to be afraid of, and trust me, it's going to be expensive for all of you. And by the way, me and my buddies are going to make a bunch of money off of all your fear the whole time.
In any system, the opportunities for corruption are rampant.
Yes, no doubt. Yeah. So maybe the word story doesn't really apply to just like an operating ethos or something like that. But and I only kind of am stuck on the whole notion of story just because I like a pie. You can only reduce things down to a consumable units, and that it serves a form of communication in our culture and in our civilization, in our species, and we have competing storylines and we have competing ideas, and religion will add a lot of perspective, to be kind, and archaeology and history and all that stuff. And I have very limited exposure to most of it, so I'm constantly trying to, although not well enough, but I do try to learn more and expand my the pixels that are within the broader story that I would love to see told. Because anyway, I could go on and on if you let me. Anything you'd like to say? I think we're about to say goodbye. No, you're good.
I think we've covered life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah, we got it.
And pie.
Bye. Oh, you're
pie.
saying? Oh, pie. It's like, what? Do you believe in reincarnation?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really have the capacity to make a solid belief in most theories of things that happen to us after we're dead, because I have no evidence.
See, perfect answer. That's exactly right. I've got the book. I just checked your answer against the acceptable answers. Very good. Cool. Well, yeah, let's say bye. We'll say bye.
All right. It's great to talk to you.
It's been wonderful. I appreciate that, you came over digitally for another podcast. Hopefully in 3 years, when the pandemic ends, we might have a chance to talk again.
I would like there to be no needed life-saving surgeries in between the next time we'll be talking now.
Yeah, right. You have a podcast. Are you still doing that? And I also...
it's on hiatus at the moment until I gain back the patience to do it. But yes, I have the distant socials.
Yeah, and I had offered to make a graphic, and I actually worked quite a bit on it, probably 10 plus hours drawing and doing an animation thing.
Are you serious? You worked that long?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not you. I offered for free and didn't even give you a chance to say no, really. I was just like, I'll make you a GIF. I don't know, because you had this skull and a martini glass thing. And so I, of course, drew it and I screen recorded it. So actually, I'm going to probably put that on Instagram, the screen recording of the skull, because the skull turned out pretty cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. I just didn't know if it was done.
No. Well, the images were done, but I was animating it, and so the way I do stuff is I always like overshoot by 20 to 50% of my ability, and then I learn and I struggle, and then by the time I'm done, I've learned it. But I was struggling to get the GIF to be seamless, because nothing drives me crazier. I have not a lot, I should say, but I have just the right amount of OCD to be like a good video editor. So the meticulousness, I just couldn't get the damn thing to be a proper seamless loop with the way the tendrils were floating up. I had it looking like steam rising, and it's just simple 2D animation. I'm sure like a capable graphics person could have done it in a few hours or something. But yeah, no, I put a lot of effort in it, and I was like, hey, look, I'm partially done. But I made a promise that I didn't follow through on, so I want to apologize.
I mean, I haven't sent out all the campaign rewards for my fundraising campaign for my movie 3 years ago, so I can't talk.
Fair enough.
I will never be able to hold a grudge against people not fulfilling promises, because I'm the worst.
All right, good. Okay, good. That helps my artery clogged heart. Artery clogged? No, that doesn't make sense. You have arteries.
Well, yeah, artery clogged.
Yeah, it's got artery strewn. Heart.
Yes. That's better.
Very good. So you're on Twitter, baddest mama jama. Links in the description. I don't know if I feel like you should say it or not. Is that podcast etiquette? I have no idea. But I'll have links to your stuff, and so yeah, I guess that's all I got. Thank you for
thanks
for
so
sitting
much,
and talking, and best of luck. I'll see you on the internet And
All right.
my God, any predictions, by the way, 2020, this election, just off the top of your head, real final moment?
It will happen. That's my prediction.
Time will continue to push on. Scary. It's just weird, crazy and scary. Okay. Bye, Jessica.
Bye,
Thanks.
Hank.
See you.
Thank you.
Good night. Good morning. Goodbye.